Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Untangle Community Webinar Series. Today, we'll be going through all the new enhancements in our latest NG Firewall 14.0 release, as well as the new features that are now available in our command center. My name is Shannon Bonfiglio. I'm part of the marketing team here at Untangle. I'll be your host today. I also have with us a few of our chief officers, Dirk Morris, who's our founder and chief product officer, who will be going through the NG Firewall part of this demonstration, as well as Timur Kovalev, who's our chief technology officer, who will be taking us through the command center demo. Next slide, please. Just a few housekeeping rules before I pass it over to Dirk. Please be sure you are selecting the correct audio preference. You have the option to use your computer speakers or to dial in. And if you do choose to dial in, you will need to use the access code that is provided. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to rewatch and revisit the areas or share this recording with anyone you wish at a later date. The webinar goes up on our YouTube channel within 24 hours after this event has ended. And as always, we have a few staff members on hand to help answer questions throughout the presentation, so please just submit those through the Q&A box on the right-hand side. And as always, if you have a very specific question or we don't get to your question, please email us at sales@untangle.com or support@untangle.com. And with that, I will pass it over to Dirk.
Thank you, Shannon, and thanks everybody for joining. As always, we're really excited to show off some of the new stuff that we have for you. We're going to go briefly into 14.0 and the new firewall version, which is now on the download page, show some of the new enhancements around that. And then we're also going to go through some of the new command center enhancements. So with that being said, I'm going to dig right in. As Shannon said, please ask any questions that you have over 14.0 or really any questions. I've got the question box up in the other window, so I'll try to cover as many questions as I can during this process. As always, I am going to walk through the changelog, and the changelog is located under Resources Documentation on our wiki. If you go into changelogs, you can view the 14.0 changelog, and that covers most of the major changes in 14.0. The big change, which unfortunately is not something you can see, so it's not something I can show you, is that underneath the covers, we upgraded the operating system underneath the covers. So a brand new kernel, we've now moved to Debian Stretch, and we're now systemd based. This is all behind the scenes stuff. This is not something you're going to be able to see, but it's really a good step forward for Untangle. This ensures that we have better hardware compatibility going forward. We stay modern, we stay on the modern kernels. We have all the best security patches and so on. So we're really excited to get this done. A couple things for me to address, actually on the upgrade side in general. The upgrade is not available yet for existing users, so that will be available in the coming months. We roll these upgrades out over time. Usually we roll out these major upgrades a little bit slower because they have things like new OS and new kernel, and we want to be very, very cautious, and we want to gather lots of data. So that upgrade will be coming. You can do a new install now by just downloading it on the download tab. The upgrade will also reboot at the end of this upgrade. So if you rather you install it manually or as an automatic upgrade, it will install the upgrade and then it'll reboot. It will not reboot into the new kernel. It'll reboot in the existing kernel. The reason we did that is because hardware compatibility is not something we know about in the new kernel yet. So obviously your existing appliance will boot fine on the existing kernel, which has no changes. So therefore we don't reboot into the new kernel just as a safety measure. That's fine, you don't lose any functionality. The new and old kernel work exactly the same. There's no difference in functionality, so you don't need to switch to the new kernel. It'll reboot on the old kernel. The reason it reboots is so that we reboot into the new systemd, which is the new system management daemon on the new OS. So just be aware of that. It's a little bit different than most upgrades. There is a reboot, but it shouldn't be major because it's going to reboot onto the same kernel. You can, if you wish, choose the new kernel when you reboot. You have to manually switch to it, and then you can run the newer kernel. Like I said, there's no specific advantage to doing so, but if you want to check out and see if your hardware is compatible with the new kernel, or maybe you just want slightly newer drivers or something like that, you can choose to boot that. Just looking at the questions, yes, If you are on 13.2, again, you will not see this upgrade available yet. As always, we roll out upgrades over time, and they'll be coming in the coming months. This upgrade will take a little bit longer than normal to roll out, but it should be available by, say, the end of August. And again, if you want to play with it now on an OVA or VMware or whatever, you can just download it from the download tab. Or if you have a test box that you want to play with, you can contact us and say, I want the upgrade available now to this test box so I can play around with it and see the differences. So with all that being said about the upgrade, I will dig right into the reports and dashboard improvements so we have some stuff we can show off. So we made some usability improvements to reporting and dashboarding. Reporting and dashboarding is one of our strongest features in Untangle because of the way we store our data and all the data that we store in the database. We're basically recording everything that happens on the network. And since it's in a database and not in, say, log files or something, you can slice and dice that data in different ways. So I could say, I want to look at the specific users report or the specific host report or this domains report or this applications report. You can drill down in any fashion. But we were getting feedback that a lot of people were struggling with drill down reports. So we tried to make that easier. So previously, you'll notice the layout here is a little bit different. Let me just click on a random report here. There used to be a section down here that had conditions, and conditions basically determined what data you were viewing. If there were no conditions, you're viewing all data. So when I'm clicking on web usage here, I'm viewing web usage, literally everything within the last 24 hours. So now we've moved all the conditions and the time frame up to the top. The thinking being that if you're going top down, you want the stuff that determines what you see at the bottom up above it. So now the conditions and the time frame are up here on the top. And then when you set that, say I want to look at a week of data, it's going to change to a week instead of a day, or this week actually, which is only a couple days. But I'll just keep looking at today. We've also changed the layout of some of this stuff over on the side. There's still the data view and things like that, download images, but the way we've done this layout is a little bit cleaner, a little bit easier, and the refresh and auto refresh buttons have been moved up here. So all the buttons that have to do with this specific report and actions are now located over here, and this really cleans up everything along the bottom. So now let me get into the conditions. This is the exciting part. So the conditions work very similarly, but now they're hopefully a little bit easier. So I could say I want to view a specific client's report. I would just add a condition. We don't actually have this client on our network. Oops, I can't even type it in right. So there is no 1234 client on this network, so there's no interesting data here. But that's how you would view a specific client's report. I can do that a little bit more easily by saying, let me go to, let's look at top clients by record, like who's browsing the web the most. Okay, this person's browsing the web. So previously I could add a condition saying I want to do 10.11.0.2121, or now I can just click on this and say, yes, I want to add this to my conditions. So I want to drill down on this client. So now obviously all it shows is that client data, but if I go back to, let's say web usage, I can now view the web usage for just that one client, or top domains. And now I'm looking at the top domains for just that one client, top categories and so on. So the drill down is hopefully much easier now. Let me just show a couple more examples. Let's say, application control, top applications by size. So we're looking at, top applications for, again, just today. So since midnight. And here's different things. I see somebody's using Facebook. I want to drill down on Facebook. Okay, well now all I see here is Facebook because I'm now looking at just a specific Facebook report. But if I want to look at, let's say, oh, the other thing that's noticing, this stuff grays out. The reason this stuff grays out when I added this Facebook condition is because those reports are not relevant. Uh-oh. Are we having video issues?
No, we're all good. It was just someone was having issues, but everyone else says it's fine. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Hopefully
I would suggest whoever's having issues, please just log in, log out. If your internet connection isn't strong, it may not show the webinar correctly. So sorry about that.
Well, all right, I'll continue on. Hopefully everything's working and you guys can hear me. But as I was saying, this stuff is grayed out because the condition here says application equals Facebook. Well, not all database tables have a application. So I can't view a specific, say, I couldn't view my CPU usage because CPU usage is not related to Facebook. In other words, it can't slice that data by this application. So it grays out the reports that are not relevant. So if I'm just looking at this specific applications report, some of these things disappear. I can still go look at my bandwidth usage, and this is going to show bandwidth usage of just Facebook because that's something we can look at the specifics of as far as it relates to just Facebook. And I could say top clients if I want to see, which clients are using Facebook. So this is actually an interesting example. Let's say we want to zoom in. So we're looking at since midnight here. Obviously in the early morning, not a lot happened. And we say, okay, well, there's a specific person using Facebook at this time. We want to drill down at this time frame. Now you have this apply time range button, which will essentially change the time you're looking at previously to this time. So now I've essentially drilled down on the specific application on the specific time. So I can go and look at the other reports, and it's all this time frame that I chose to drill down on. So quote, drilling down is now something that should be much easier. I want to switch back to today's report. And again, you could always add more conditions. Top clients. So, okay, that's interesting. Let me look at a pie chart. Top clients by total bytes. This person, I want to drill down to Facebook usage of this specific client. And now I can see all the bandwidth usage. Not a lot of bandwidth usage here, so not like they're watching videos or anything. But just as an example of something you can dig down into. So hopefully the conditions are a little bit easier and will show off some of the power that the Untangle reports have to offer and allow you to more easily drill down into the data. And again, one of the things we changed is there's always this data view. The data view works a little bit differently now, but the export thing is down here at the bottom. So if you want to export the data, and these things, there used to be a little funnel icon. Now you can just click on it. So if I want to drill down to my specific report, I want to drill down into username equals D Morris, and now I'm using D Morris's report as opposed to the client report we were looking at earlier. Hopefully that makes sense. I see some people saying that they like the changes, so that's great to hear. One of the other very cool things that we added was now you have the ability to add conditions to the dashboard. So the dashboard is completely customizable, and you can add any of your reports here by just going in here and adding settings and adding custom widgets or creating new ones and adding stuff here. So this is a great way to customize your view of your entire network. We were really happy with the feedback we got from this, and people were enjoying it. A lot of people just leave this up so they can see what's going on in their network. But one of the things we added was the ability to drill down here. So let's say we're looking, this is actually a San Jose office. So we're seeing a lot of different, hosts on the network. We got about, let's see, 51 devices currently online, sending traffic to the internet, and you can see where that traffic's going. Top host names usage, top applications usage, showing all sorts of different things going on. Here you can see, okay, we got a lot going on, SSL, Facebook, HTTP, kind of stuff you'd expect. Well, let's say similar reports, we wanted to drill down into something. Oh, wow, there's YouTube going on. Well, let's see what YouTube is. So again, we can click here, and now we can add a condition to the dashboard. So, again, some of this stuff gets grayed out. The reason that happens is because those reports aren't specifically relevant to this condition, application equals YouTube. In other words, web usage, top domains usage, those aren't relevant because those don't have a specific condition for application equals YouTube. But the rest of these show session per minute, host names, all the same stuff that you saw before, except now it's only relevant to YouTube. So this allows it, as you can see, very easily to pick out who's looking at YouTube at any given time. And you could do this, you could drill down on any aspect. So now when we go back, you'll see the data changes again because I removed this condition. And I want to drill down into this random desktop and see what this desktop is doing. So an easy way to just use your dashboard to essentially drill down on any specific thing at any given time. So it's the same concept as reports. It just works a little bit differently. And then it applies to all the different charts that you're seeing on the dashboard. Give me 1 second to read through and catch up on all the questions. It looks like most of them have been handled. Most of the questions have been handled. Again, the upgrade will be coming by the end of August. You can download it now, or we will roll it out slowly over time to existing servers. So it'll show up in config upgrade. If you don't see the upgrade here, don't panic. That's totally normal if you're running 13.2.1. You will see it in the coming weeks or months. I'm going to move on just because we got a lot of stuff going on. But if there are other questions, I will loop back and cover the reports and dashboard improvements. We did make some quote SD-WAN improvements. SD-WAN is what's called software-defined WAN. Essentially, it's a very popular trend that's happening in networks today, which is stuff's moving around. The way we connect to the internet is changing. Some technologies are moving to the cloud. A lot of people are using multiple WANs for failover and balancing and maximizing throughput. And so we have seen a lot of people using tunnel VPN essentially to connect to a couple different things. Let me switch to a different server actually. Using tunnel VPN to connect to either a firewall in the cloud, that could be a firewall in Amazon, which is now something that we offer. So you can install NGFW in Amazon and run your firewall as a service. So if you have a lot of different sites, you can run it through a central firewall in Amazon, which makes configuration and reporting and control all centralized and simple. And then you, at the different sites, use a tunnel to connect all the different sites to your Amazon or cloud instance, wherever it is. And the other thing tunnel VPN is used for is connecting to different services, be they security services or just privacy services. Like in this case, I'm connected to ExpressVPN, which is just a privacy VPN. So we've changed the way some of these tunnels work and added some advanced options. Essentially, you can now choose to not NAT traffic going out the WAN or out the tunnel. The reason you'd want to do that is if you're running a firewall in the cloud and your firewall wants full visibility onto your network. You don't want to NAT traffic. You want the firewall in the cloud to be able to see the different clients on the network. So the different, IPs, 192.168, whatever, so that your reports in the cloud have full visibility into all the different networks of all the different sites behind them. The other option we added is the ability to bound specific WAN. So I only have one WAN in this case, but if you had 3 WANs, let's say you had 2 physical connection interfit and a 4G backup, you can now create a tunnel for each specific WAN. The reason you'd want to do that is because you want to ensure that this tunnel is always using this specific WAN so that you can set up your rules accordingly. So that allows you to set up different tunnels for different WANs and bound them. They don't have to be bound. In other words, the default is not bound, meaning it'll use whatever WAN is up, and that specific tunnel may move around, or if you want, you can bind a specific WAN. Again, that's important for SD-WAN scenarios where you have multiple WANs and you want to balance carefully. We also added some new functionality in the Wi-Fi. You can now do Wi-Fi essentially as a client, not as a wireless access point. So if you have a wireless interface, you can now connect that wireless interface upstream to some wireless access point and use it as a WAN. The use case for that is commonly like, hey, you have a 4G hotspot and you want to use that as a backup WAN. Your Untangle can now connect as a client to that specific hotspot and use it as a regular interface. So previously you could only do an SSID, but now you can connect upstream. The way you would do that is just manually type in the SSID and tell it what to connect to. But hopefully all those changes will help with the SD-WAN scenarios that are becoming very popular. We also redid the setup wizard. You'll notice that immediately on new install. I'll briefly show that. That is under system. I won't actually run through the setup wizard, but the layout has been completely changed. And it's been cleaned up a lot. So hopefully the setup wizard will flow a little bit quicker and be a little bit more device friendly if you're installing from an iPad or even a phone or something like that. Let me real quick review the questions. Looks like our team has answered most of the questions. Yep, I'm gonna keep going real quick. Just cover a couple of these other minor changes. There's been a bunch of fixes to intrusion prevention. We continue to work on intrusion prevention, and we have some more exciting stuff hopefully coming for 14.1. Lots of usability and UI improvements and smaller bug fixes. Amazon AWS builds are now part of our build system going forward. So many of you have noticed that we announced the firewall as a service, and you can run NGFW in the cloud. The use case for that, as I said, is when you're running lots of sites and you want to centralize firewall in the cloud. It makes it extremely easy. For those of people using Safari, we made a lot of Safari fixes in this release, so the UI should work a lot better for Safari users. Again, if you're an IE user, unfortunately, your life is just going to be painful. My suggestion would be to use Chrome, Safari, or Firefox. Edge will somewhat work. IE will unfortunately just not really work. We added support for several dynamic DNS providers, Cloudflare, Google, a couple of more popular ones now are supported as options here. DuckDNS, I think, was another one we added, Google and Google Domains. So for those of you guys using those to update your DNS when your IP changes, those services should now work. Please give us feedback if you try them and they work or don't work. But another change we made is, let me just go over this real quick. For those of you people using local administration, I know local VGA administration is very popular. A lot of people install with it, which totally makes sense because it makes the install a lot easier. But unlike every other firewall or router on the planet, basically, nobody really does local administration. And even on Untangle, the local desktop is not really meant for day in, day out administration. A lot of people we found were running Chrome on the local desktop and leaving it running to leave the dashboard up. We really discourage this because Chrome takes a lot of memory, and that's memory that's taken away from the important network services running on the firewall. So now, if you leave Chrome running on the local console, meaning literally on the Untangle server itself with a keyboard, video, mouse hooked up, it will kill it automatically after 12 hours. This is to prevent it from slowly using all the memory over time and crashing the server, which is something we were seeing quite a lot with people leaving Chrome open. You totally can leave Chrome open, connected all day to your dashboard from a separate computer. You can leave this up. That causes no issue. We just don't want it running on a local server. And for those of you using the local server, I would encourage you to switch to either Command Center. Command Center gives you an extremely easy way to log into your server from just untangle.com, or at minimum, just administering remotely with the IP. Let me browse through the questions real quick. Shannon, was there anything, or Timur, was there anything that I didn't cover that we should probably cover? It looks like you guys answered most everything.
Yeah, I think we're pretty good. Most of the questions were answered. Like Dirk said, if you have any other questions that you want to have him answer right now, is the chance to put it into the Q&A box before we pass it over to Timur to start the Command Center demo. I think most things were answered.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of questions around the upgrade timing. And again, we appreciate your patience. This is not something we can rush. The 4.9 kernel and the new OS is a big change, even though it's not a big change that's visible. And we need to gather data. So we have tens and tens of thousands of servers out there that we automatically upgrade. An automatic upgrade is something that vendors don't typically do. That's something unique to Untangle. So we have to be very, very cautious when we roll out and make upgrades available that everything 100% works as expected, because these sites are running critical networks out there. So we appreciate your patience, but we have to gather data around the new OS and the new kernel, and we will slowly roll out the upgrades, and they should be available to everybody in the next coming weeks or months.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dirk. Questions are going to keep rolling in, but Timur, do you want to take it over? And let's see, we have the...
Sure.
Let me pass it over to you. There you go.
All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yep, you're good.
All right, perfect. Thanks for the demo, Dirk. That was pretty good stuff. So on the command center side, we're at a slightly different release cadence than the firewall, in the sense that we push out things as soon as they're completed. So you've probably seen some of the features already roll out, but I will review sort of the highlights of the command center changes that we've pushed out as part of this release. So one of the things that we've been working on is policy configuration across multiple devices, and we've been sort of putting an effort into this for quite some time, and you've seen under policies and command center ability to push things like alerts configurations or specific policies that can exist in an application context. What we've done, we've added this template configuration area where you can push the entire configuration of the appliance to one or more other boxes. And the way that essentially works is that it uses the backup restore functionality, and it essentially restores a backup from the appliance that you select as a master to the target appliances. And from there, it disseminates that to all the target appliances, and it removes some of the settings out of the backup configuration that prevent normal operations. So these would be network settings, hosts, devices, and things of that nature. So let me show you how that works. So in template configuration, you create a template, and here you need to have a minimum of 13.2 appliance in order for this to work. And you select your target appliance. Actually, before I do that, let me jump in here real quick, and we'll get into both of the appliances that I'm going to manage and take a look at what's going on here. So I got a dev box, and I have a production box here. So as these will come up, we'll take a look and see that they have slightly different configurations between the two of them. And so once we perform the restore, you will be able to see that the configuration has been synced across the board. So on the production box, we have kind of a school simulation, I guess, if you will. So we have a default policy, a student policy, teacher's policy, and the lead hacker policy. And the dev box is pretty much vanilla at this point. It's just a default policy here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a template configuration from the production box, and I'm going to push that configuration onto the development box. And what that's going to do is it's going to recreate the entire gamut of settings across the policies and other affected components, alerts, and so forth, and really create a clean copy of the configuration that we have in production. So I will select the production as my master appliance, and I have a backup here. And I will select the dev box as the target. And so obviously on this last step, you can select multiple appliances. I'm not going to update some of these other ones. But the idea is that it's a one-to-many setting configuration deployment. And you sync now. So what's going to happen here is that you can navigate away from here. There's going to be a toast message that appears that will notify you when the system is complete. On the boxes, on the individual boxes, we'll see one of these boxes go down. It's probably downloading the backup right now, and it will actually restart. So here you see that the connection has been lost. It's going to take us away, and basically right now it's going to be reapplying the configuration that it's received from the production box, hopefully. So we'll wait for that to complete. Oh, there it goes. It's already done. And so I'll just need to refresh this. It will start up shortly, and then we should be able to see the affected changes. In the meantime, let me show you a couple other things about what we've done here in the Command Center. So in the reports area, we've had kind of a fuzzy logic that's grouped a bunch of categories that are reported by our appliances into this other category, which we've sort of gotten a little bit of complaints for, which is legitimate. Obviously, when you get to something that has 376 entries, if we put 376 items in here, this graph would look pretty rough. But so what we've done, we've introduced this additional grid that allows you to look at the additional changes that have been grouped into this other configuration. So once you get past YouTube, all this other stuff is actually grouped into the other. And the configurability of this is pretty self-explanatory. You can increase the page size, you can basically flip through all of them and see all of the applications that are in this report. Similarly, we added a couple of additional reports here. Again, mostly people expressed interest in getting additional web filter configurations. So we have blocked host names, blocked sites, and the number of requests that have been blocked to those sites, and so forth right here. Another thing that we did, let me refresh this guy. Another thing that we did is, and then you might have noticed this as I was browsing around on the appliances earlier, was that we basically changed some of the layouts here in the appliances page. If you have more than 10, I believe, appliances in your account, this is going to be the view that shows versus the traditional icon-driven view. And also on the individual pages, we moved some of the functionality into the bar. That's going to be receiving quite a bit more functionality as we go forward. Furthermore, we've added backup and restore functionality into the backup grid, so you can actually execute some of this functionality directly from the appliances tab remotely. And so here's our dev, and now it's fully recreated with all of our additional policies, and it is essentially became a clone of the production box that we just essentially templated from. We are currently working on expanding that functionality. So right now, if we take a look at the command center here, we have this template configuration saved. So if some changes have been made to the production box, I can redeploy them to the changes that to the target appliances that I configured in this setup. And so I can press sync now, and basically what's going to happen is we're going to execute a backup on production, and then we're going to redeploy the backup to the target appliances that were selected here as well. Let's see. I believe this is all I have to show. So I'll take a look at any questions here. It looks like we're looking good. Shannon, back to you.
Okay, yeah, just some questions about the syncing, just asking in general if everything syncs, if you want to just detail that quickly, Timur.
Yeah, so which ones are we talking about here?
Will it sync everything except network settings? Yes.
Yes, network settings, hosts, devices, and users.
Let's see, just some other questions coming in. When you sync from dev to production, does site-specific network settings remain? Yeah, for the target site. So same question, yeah. So the network settings stay the same.
Yep.
All right, Dirk, I'm going to give you back presenter so we can show the deck really quick, so we can finish this out. I know some more questions are coming in. Great. So were there any other questions, Dirk, that you saw that you wanted to answer live?
I think our team did a great job answering all the questions, but we're still here. So if you guys have more questions, now's your chance.
Yeah. Just while we wait for some questions to come in, I just want to mention some promotions we have going on. If you haven't heard about these promotions, then this might be a great opportunity for you guys to save some money. We have a trade-in, trade-up program. So I know some people were asking, you know, if they're looking at us to switch over from a competitor, you know, to Untangle. We do offer professional services, which is the answer to the question that someone asked. But we also have special pricing for that. So if you're looking at a competitor's product but want to go with Untangle, or if you have a competitor's product and want to switch over to Untangle, we do offer some discounts for that, as well as if you have an older subscription or appliance and you want to upgrade to something newer and better to match your network growing or shrinking, we do offer some discounts for that. And I know we have a bunch of home users that use us at home, and if you do bring us to work, we do offer some special pricing for that as well. So please just give us a call or email our sales team and find out what we can do for you. Let's see, there are some questions coming in. So Timur, there is a question about the multiple logins for admins. I know we didn't really mention that. If you want to talk about the multiple login options for that.
Sure. Yeah. So in my account, you have an area called users, where you can define additional users to go in there. Right now, that's not going to be a full admin access. You would need to specify the appliances which these users can manage, and subsequently they can log in using their credentials and manage these appliances. We are making some changes to that whole area to be able to create additional user roles for the account, such as a financial user versus an admin, and these things are coming out towards the end of the summer.
All right, I think, let's see, do we have one more slide, Dirk? Okay, so this is just some resources for you guys. As I mentioned, the webinar will be uploaded on our YouTube channel within 24 hours, so you'll be able to rewatch this. As Dirk mentioned, the wiki has all the information on the changelog. We have our current release page on our website that kind of goes into detail as well as some short little videos on answering questions, how to upgrade, what's changed, stuff like that. As always, we have the forums, which is our active community for people to, oh, there you go. So there's the current release page with all the information. We have a couple videos right there on the front that are just a minute or two to help go over what's changed. And then, Dirk, if you want to show them the forums, for those of you who aren't aware, we have a forums, which is our active community where you can post any comment, question, concern, and our active employees and active users will help answer and figure out how to resolve your issue, your problem. If we didn't get to your question, or if you have a very specific question in terms of how to set up your network, please email us, sales@untangle.com or support@untangle.com. We'd be happy to help figure out how to make Untangle work best in your network environment. So thank you, Timur and Dirk. I think that's all the questions. I haven't seen anything else come in yet. So I think we'll wrap this up, and yeah, I don't see anything else coming in. So thank you, Dirk and Timur, for the great demo. As always, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks everybody for joining.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Great. Thanks, guys.